Hello, I'm Rob,
And I'm Rob, but a different one.
and yeah, different way around this time. And we're back again, and we're going to be talking about another game today called is it Pillars of Eternity?
Yes, it is Pillars of Eternity, the complete edition, which is out now on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Now, a little bit of history about Pillars of Eternity, right? It's developed by Obsidian Entertainment, and the nice thing about Obsidian Entertainment is that they have a good pedigree with RPGs, right? Especially PC-based
Yeah.
RPGs.
What else have they done? Because that name really sounds familiar, and I can't place it.
Obsidian basically did Knights of the Old Republic 2, the Sith Lords, if I remember rightly, Neverwinter Nights 2, Alpha Protocol, Fallout New Vegas, Dungeon Siege 3, South Park The Stick of Truth, and they also did like Pathfinder and stuff like that. They've done all sorts for other companies, and
Got
this is
massive
one
amount of RPG credibility there.
they do. And Pillars of Eternity is their own in-house, developed by them, published by Paradox Interactive. It's their own kind of game, though. It's the one that they had total input on. It wasn't based on any external things. It is kind of a spiritual successor to games like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, stuff like that, and even Planescape Torment. And I'll talk a little bit about the tie-in with the Torment franchise in a bit. But this game was originally crowdfunded on Kickstarter. It had over 77,000 backers and raised over $4 million. And at the time, it was the highest funded video game, right? And it was developed...
That never stays still. They're always the highest funded video game.
Yeah.
Give it a week, and it'll be a new thing entirely.
But this kind of set the bar for crowdfunded video games, how good they should be. And that was the surprising thing about Pillars of Eternity when it came out, was the fact that it set the bar really, really high, right? The original game, when it came out on the PC, was a revelation. It was a throwback to the old style top-down dungeon crawlers like Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale that were heavily story-driven. These were complex, they had deep interaction, loads of customization, that sort of thing, and that's why people still hold those games up today as classics of the genre, classics of video gaming, even.
So no fart throwing like in South Park then.
No fart throwing like in South Park. You know,
This is the question. These are the questions I'm here for. You know.
I mean, even when you compare this to the likes of, say, Diablo or Diablo 3, right? I would say Pillars of Eternity has a much deeper and more complex storyline than Diablo 3. And
Well,
I know
Diablo 3 is kind of non-existent as far as story goes. I don't know, that's kind of blasphemy, but
it had a story, don't get me wrong, but this is where the kind of comparisons with Torment Tides of Numenera come in. You remember I reviewed that a while ago on Press X, our video
Yes.
games podcast, and I said that it was heavily story driven. There was loads of dialogue options, and the story, you basically were playing a book and a video game at the same time, and it was really absorbing, really drew you into the world.
yeah, I
Right.
remember.
Pillars of Eternity is that sort of game. The story is deep, it's complex, and it really pulls you into the world. There are dialogue options, but your dialogue options in this will be remembered and do have a lasting effect on the game.
Well, that's nothing new.
That's nothing new, and it is kind of how Telltale do their adventure games as well.
Well, I was more referring to Dragon Age and Mass Effect.
Yeah, this is nothing like them. And I'll be honest, having played Dragon Age and Mass Effect and Pillars of Eternity, I kind of prefer Pillars of Eternity.
Is this the sort of game which has like a million pages of depth? The sort
Yes.
of game that if this had like a crafting system, you'd be like a pig in muck.
It does have a crafting system.
Right, okay.
It has a great system, right, called Stronghold, where you can basically have your own castle and effectively throwing money at the castle can basically improve the castle, but you can have like a dungeon where you can capture prisoners and keep them in your dungeon. You can have a garden where you can grow stuff for crafting and stuff like that. But the biggest thing about the complete edition of Pillars of Eternity is the fact that it's not PC based. Now, this is where the danger comes in. I'm not going to talk too much about the game itself, because the gameplay side of Pillars of Eternity is basically identical to how it is on the PC, or rather, in terms of the functionality, in terms of how it works. But in terms of the actual command system, how that's structured, things like that, that's where the differences are, right? And normally when you port a game from a PC, something that's heavily based on a piece, on kind of the mouse and keyboard system, porting it to a console, mapping those controls to a console controller, that's the difficult part, right? And there are very few games that actually manage to succeed with that transfer. Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, has done it really well. Torment Tides of Numenera did it reasonably well. There were some niggly bits which I'm still not happy about that, but it for the most part it was good. But Pillars of Eternity really benefits from one particular aspect of the game, right? And that was the ability of the game, when there's action about to happen, for the game to automatically pause and let you make your decisions. And you will pause a lot with this game, right? You will pause a hell of a lot. So auto pause is a godsend.
You're saying that like it's a good thing, but
no, it is a very good thing.
I mean, it's all about perspectives here. From your perspective, that's amazing. That helps you play the game. But from my perspective, I'm a little more of an impatient gamer. I just want business to get on with business, and let's get on with it.
See, that's where the misunderstanding happens, right? See, you think that pausing the game stops the action, but it doesn't, because what it allows you to do, the pause in this sense is where combat is concerned, and the pause allows you to basically assign different characters to attack different targets, choose the weapons that they use to attack those targets. It adds this huge element of strategy to the combat.
I hate to say this, but it's the Gambit system.
No, it's not.
Oh, well, you made it sound like that.
It's not the Gambit system. None of this happens automatically. You decide these things, right? These characters, they'll auto-attack with whatever their default weapons are, right? Once you've told them to attack. But you can separate your characters out and have them attack individual targets. So you could send your tank to basically hold off the majority of enemies, especially if your tank is powerful enough and has enough defense. You could send your tank to hold off the majority of enemies and bottleneck them, while you take the rest of your party take out the stragglers. Or you could split your party up even further, or you could just have each member of your party, you can have like up to 6 characters or something like that, and they can basically take out different enemies on their own if they're strong enough. Do you see what I mean? And you can choose the weapon that they use, so they can hit from range, they can hit from they can do range attacks, they can do melee attacks, that sort of thing.
Sounds like an awful lot of work.
It is a lot of work, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it because the combat in this game, even on easy mode, is still quite tough. And this
on that.
Yeah.
Is this the sort of, it sounds perfect. It sounds like the perfect point to jump in with this point. Because XCOM,
yeah,
regardless of what difficulty level you're at, the second you got good, the game got harder. This sounds like it might be true here too.
Not exactly. The game basically maintains a reasonable difficulty level. If you're on easy, it will be easy pretty much throughout the game. The big thing about this game is that with it being the complete edition, it basically includes the expansion, The White March, parts 1 and 2. And the thing about The White March was that it increased the level cap, it added new abilities, it introduced new companions, and it also introduced a new game mode called Storytime, where the difficulty was the combat was kind of the normal difficulty rather than easy, but it added extra bonuses, so it was mainly for people who were more invested in playing through the story, rather than doing the full kind of RPG.
That is nice.
Kind of thing. And that actually is the mode that I've been playing through, and that really works, right? Now, your character obviously starts off, you get the character creator, and you can spend ages in the character creator, right? And once you've got your character made, because you can choose all sorts of options for your character, not just the race, the class, things like that, but you can choose their faith, you can choose what path they follow, you can choose whether all sorts of other options for them. There's loads and
Whether they
loads.
vote for Brexit or not.
Almost.
You know.
It is almost that deep, right? In terms of complexity. The other thing about the character creator is, okay, the graphics for the characters aren't that great. You know, it's not like...
So what? There's like the game that came out last year, the year before, Wastelands, like a post-apocalyptic Western style.
Well, Wastelands 2, I think, was Obsidian as well. I think...
oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Just because it's basic doesn't mean it's rubbish.
That's literally what I was about to say.
Yeah, it's vision.
Yeah. Well,
Vision is more important than like being all swanky.
The thing is, the character creator is just for your character that's on the playfield. But really, your character is basically whichever portrait you choose, right? And the portraits are nicely drawn, things like that. So you could have a male character, right? But you could have a female portrait.
Okay.
Which I thought was quite interesting.
So you did that then, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Obviously, my character has a beard because I have a beard. So my character must have a beard because beards united, obviously. You know, that is the thing.
Filthy hipster.
Hey, I'm in my 40s. I'm allowed to have a beard by now.
Okay, fair enough. I rescind my comment.
Exactly. But yeah, once you get into the main game itself, you'll find there's a lot of reading, right? And if you are not into games where there is a lot of reading...
This is a very important question.
Yeah.
Because recently, this is a bugbear for a lot of people. Games with a lot of reading have put the writing very small on big screens. So you've got to get right up there and park a chair right about a foot away from the TV screen. Is it another addition to that club?
No.
Oh, thank God. That's such a bad thing in games right now.
And you know that I hate that as well because I don't have good eyes.
Neither do I.
Yeah, mine are worse than yours.
Yeah.
You tried my glasses, you know what I mean.
I could see through time.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So yeah, that's a bugbear of mine as well. I don't like it when games do that. Thankfully, Pillars of Eternity, Obsidian, did not do that with Pillars of Eternity. And that's really good. The great thing about the dialogue, right? The writing and the dialogue, because there is voice acting in this, and the voice acting is really good, right? Amongst the best I've heard in RPGs. The story itself is just as deep and as complex as anything as any Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, anything like that, right? It stands right up there with the best of them. I mean, this was getting like 90%, 9 out of 10, things like that when it came out, and it thoroughly deserves those ratings. And
nice.
When it comes to the actual characters, because you can have characters die off in this, right? And you could set up your party of companions who you've met along the way, and you could have a great party, but one of them dies. And the great thing about this game is it has like a mercenary system, so you can create a new character using the create a character, and you can basically create all these things. It's a bit like, you know, when you create new characters on XCOM.
I don't want to remember XCOM. Too many bad memories.
You think you have too many bad memories? You know my story.
Yeah. Never name them after people you know. It's tragic.
Never build up your own your own story for one of your characters who's been there from the beginning, you know, and you start thinking of him as if he was your own child, you know.
Yeah, that's even worse.
He had to be a goddamn hero.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but it's interesting you can do that with the creative character.
Yeah, there's a lot to do in Pillars of Eternity, but the main thing is the story, and the story is the story is deep. It's tragic. It's almost heartbreaking at times. You find out... Sorry?
Involved.
It's very, very involved, and it covers the range and the depth of human experience and human emotion. You'll see the kindness of people, whether they're human, dwarven, elven, whatever, right? You'll see the kindness of them. You'll see the cruelty of them in this game, and they'll be often hand in hand. And that, I think, it really is a testament to just how good the storytelling is. This is a game where it's all about the story. The graphics are great, barring one or two little bits which only purists would really pick up on, you pedantic so-and-sos.
Well, it's less than great. It has a job, and it doesn't try to be anything else but that job.
Exactly. And to be honest, I can't really criticise the graphics for what they do. And the biggest issue would be how does it work on the console? That will always be the biggest issue for any port from a PC, right? How does it work using a controller? And I am happy to say that it works very, very well with a controller. I've played this on the PC, and I didn't really have any issues getting used to how it works on a controller.
Well, you're gushing now, so I'm going to stop you.
All I'm going to say is I'm gushing, but I'm gushing with good reason. This is that good a game.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. It just has its market, and it satisfies that market.
Let me put it this way. Of the RPGs available on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One at this point in time, and especially if you like your RPGs, if you haven't picked up and played Pillars of Eternity, the complete edition, if you haven't already played it on the PC and you haven't picked it up already to play it on the PS4 or the Xbox One, then you can't really call yourself an RPG fan.
Big words, big fighting words.
They are big fighting words, but I class this as one of the best RPGs to appear on consoles. Obsidian, kudos to you. You've done a marvelous job.
You must have seen some amazing sights on your way north.
Sure. Pirate cities floating in the archipelago. The mountain halls of these northern dwarves. Plenty.
I haven't been further south than the Deerwood myself. Maybe I'll come back after I've convinced the Ranga Nui and see all those things for myself.
I hope you do.
So, did you agree with what I had to say in this video? If you do, then like this video, subscribe to our channel. If you don't, then leave us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts are on Pillars of Eternity, the complete edition.
Of course, if you would agree, you can also comment. We don't just want like a stream of bad comments saying you're all idiots, you don't know what you're talking about.
Although we do understand that's how YouTube comments generally work.
Yes.
Also, check out our other videos. We've got interviews with various wonderful people that we meet when we go out and about to events over here. And over there, we've got other reviews that we've done, other conversations that we've had about video games. Also, we have a Patreon, which will be somewhere around here, maybe down below the video. So please support the Geek Show Podcast Network on Patreon and help us do more of this stuff.
Thanks for watching.